Hello everyone, welcome to my new video. First of all, I need to say I'm sorry for not being posting for a while now. There is a good and valid reason for that because it's mainly because I have been researching quite a lot on generative AI and also AI agents. So I spent a lot of time there trying to understand the concepts and how to really build solutions using these new technologies. So that's why I was silent for a while because I mainly wanted to have that full understanding first and then share my experience with all of you guys. So the time is up now so that I want to, I'm basically trying to share some information around these topics and starting with this video. Um, so a while ago, I posted a video about introduction to generative AI. So basically, this video covered the basic information about what is generative AI and what are the companies that offer GenAI solutions like OpenAI, for example, and how we can use it to basically create content like different content like text, video, audio, and these things. So that being said, in this video I want to explain to you like how the data matters when it comes to Gen AI solutions. Because what we usually do is in an organization when we interact with these generative AI models or large language models, we all the time work with data. We just don't just have general conversations like hi, hello, and these kind of things because we want to process data. That's the main purpose. So in a scenario like that, how can we achieve this? And how can we provide this data to these models? So this is the main topic I want to talk to you today and basically get these models to generate the most helpful responses. So to get started, we can just look at the ChatGPT interface. So basically, what I want to show is in this interface, I'm sure most of you have already used it to generate different kind of content for you guys. Um, so what we do here is in terms of prompting, so every message that we send here is actually considered as a prompt, a user prompt. And in order to create info, important or relevant information, we need to provide some context to it. So let's say, for example, we have an email that we got and we want to create a response for it. So what do you do? So if you just say, okay, create a reply to an email, for what email? Where is that data coming from? Because that model doesn't have this information. So we need to provide it. So what we do generally is when you're interacting with these models to get a helpful answer, we provide this information in a specific structure. So we, for example, let's say, uh, so let's say for example, I say that I want to reply to an email. So it's asking for the content of the email, right? Yeah. So this is a email that I have. This is just a dummy email, which basically says that it's about a purchase that was done by someone from this example company, and he's not happy about it because of various reasons. So if we just provide this information here, so basically you are generating a response for that. But this response does not have enough information about basically how you want to respond. As a company, there you may have different procedures and ways of responding, and we don't need to just generate a generic response and send it. We need to make sure that this response is helpful and includes all the information that we need to communicate as a customer service representative. Um, so this is an email that got generated, but now in my prompt, what I have is just the email and saying that generate a response for it. But let's say I need to have a very structured way of responding to it. Um, so basically, this could include some more information, like if you want to generate a response to an email, basically you may need to respond as someone who actually handles certain things in the organization. Let's say a customer support assistant who is well experienced. So that is one part of the prompt. So the first part, to basically create some good responses, your prompt has to be broken down into several sections. One could be a system role. What role the assistant or the LLM should consider or it should play to create this content. So in my case, I have created this draft um, system prompt. So I'm saying that you are an experienced customer support assistant in this company who is committed to exceptional customer service and satisfaction. So that gives some context to the model that this is the role that he needs to play to generate a response. And that's just one part. Second part, how do we read and understand the information you're providing as a part of the email? It could be an email where a person is not happy. It could be an email asking for certain information like clarification. It can be any email. So we cannot provide um, instructions for each and every scenario every time, right? So the system instructions that we are providing for a model has to be standard, and it should cover all the scenarios that are in the scope of the process. So in my case, for a customer service uh, section, if you're building an assistant, right, um, you have a role and you can also provide some information about how we are going to understand and analyze the information provided to you. So in this case, this section basically tells, um, this entire section basically tells how to understand the customer request, how to identify the sentiments, how to capture the key information, and decide what task to perform based on this information. And when you say task, this could also connect with different automations or different other steps, which is a topic for another video. But for the time being, let's assume that there are some tasks that it will need to perform. And then how do you want to generate a response? Like as a part of the company, what kind of best practices you use to generate responses to your clients? And what's the approach that you take? So basically, it covers all of this information. And for certain scenarios, these are like exceptional cases, like how do you provide that extra support when someone is frustrated, like for example. So that's one. Then, based on all of this information, when you generate a response, I don't want to still generate a random response covering all these points, but I need to have, I would like to have a specific structure in my response. So to do that, I am actually instructing with this information. So when you're responding, you can respond with this specific structure. The subject line should be like this. This is how I would like to start the conversation. This is an example for that. And details of the resolution. This is how I would like to take it. Like for complaints, I start like this. For inquiries, I use a different approach, and likewise. And then also some best practices. Now with this, what I'm trying to do is provide more context and provide more personalization to the responses that I generate. So this is actually a good practice which you can use when you're interacting with LLMs to provide more relevant, more accurate, and more helpful responses for your data that you are going to process. So in our case, it's just a simple email. So earlier we just processed one email, right? It just said this is the email generator response. But now I want to actually provide more context and then generate this email response. So let's see how to do that. So I'm going to create a new conversation here. It's a new chat. I'll make it temporary. And this time I'm first providing this system instruction, all this information, and also at the top it says system role, and I can also provide some more things. I'm going to say this is my system instructions, and down here I can say user received email and then provide the email. So let's copy the email here, and this time I'm not going to say that generator response because it's already covered in the system instruction. So let's see how this looks like. And now you can see it has a better approach in generating a response. So you can see it has additional information like return process, immediate action, and yeah, so he's also giving that personal thing because in the instruction I said that if it's something urgent and really frustrating, you provide that personal level support, right? And you can see it's saying that call me directly on this information, the contact information. So this is the level of this is the basic level that for this example I would expect to generate a response. So we are able to do that on the ChatGPT, which is good. I can just quickly paste the email here, I can provide the instruction and generate the response and just send it. But I want this to be a part of my automation solution, maybe a part of AI assistant, where it can read the email and automatically generate these kind of responses and send it. So it's like a part of it is automation, and part of that is this AI part where it interacts with GenAI. And how can we do that? So automation part, yes, we all can easily figure that out, like connect the UiPath process to an email, you read the email, and it's easy. But I want to show and focus on this specific part, how to do this in a simple UiPath process. So let's come to the studio. So in the studio, we have a set of activity packages that can actually help do this. So first of all, before creating anything in the process, we need to use this UiPath.integration service activities. So this is the activity pack that we are going to use, because this activity pack actually enables us to use all the GenAI or the AI capabilities that's available in UiPath. So remember this, it's UiPath.integrationService.activities. Always use the latest one. And to use this, so basically once you get this, this actually gives you access to different activities that connects with integration service. And for this specific scenario, we are going to use this UiPath GenAI activities. So you can see there are a lot of activities here which I will be covering as we go on different videos about these things. But for this specific one, I'm going to use this content generation activity. But before using this, we need to do one more extra step, which is creating a connection with the integration service for this GenAI activities. So for that, we need to perform an extra step. So we need to go to the UiPath platform, and we need to go to integration service. And over here, we need to create a new connection. So for me, I have already created this connection for this GenAI folder, which is the UiPath GenAI activities. But what you can or what you should do is search for GenAI, UiPath GenAI activities. Click on this and connect UiPath GenAI activities. Then it takes you to the authorization page, and just click on connect, and it will create a connection. And once you do that, then you can come back to your studio, just refresh this instance so it captures everything. You can do that on this refresh thing, and then you can drag and drop this content generation activity. Now I have already configured this, but I'll show you how to do that. So I'll just place it here. I'll explain the flow, and as soon as you drag it, it will connect using the connection that you have provided, and then you just need to configure the rest of the activities, the properties. So in my case, I have already done that. So by default, it actually gives you this system prompt, which basically tells you you are a helpful assistant. But in our case, we want this system prompt to be specific to our need. So what we are going to do here is, so let me show the actual activity that I configured, so it's easier. So in my case, I have the option to use different models. So I'm actually using GPT-4o and this latest one. Then for the prompt, for the time being, because I only want to focus on this specific part, I am using this input dialog here to capture the user input. So basically to capture that email that we are getting. The assumption here is that if you plug this workflow into automation flow, first we read the email, then that you extract the body of the email, and that can be passed into this activity. It's easy as a text. So for my case, I'm just using this simple dialog box. Then in this one, you provide the prompt as the user input. And I don't have any personal identification info that I want to detect and mask. So it's set to false. But if you set this to true, all the personal information will be masked, and it will just provide a different key for that, so that that information is not used or given to you back. And here is the system prompt. In the system prompt, that same system message that I had, which I used in the ChatGPT, I am pasting that here. So this includes the system role, the instructions we need to follow, the response framework, and the best practices in generating this response. And you can even further personalize this by maybe providing your information, maybe the assistant information, something like that, so it is even more accurate and relevant. And the context grounding is set to none because I want to use this option in a different video which I'll be doing later. And these are the little configurations we have to do. Then we have to go to properties panel and capture the output from this top generated text. So this is where you can actually get the final output of the response. And you can also say that we have several properties here, but for our case here, what's relevant is this temperature. Temperature is set to 1, which means it's the model can be creative and still follow the instructions and be creative to generate a nice response. But if you set this to 0, it will be very, very specific to your needs. So there are different requirements where this has to be specific, very specific, or you can be a little bit more creative. So it's something that we need to configure according to our requirements. For the time being, let's set it to 1 because we are just trying to create a response email. And then the output is given to me in a message box. So this is basically how we do the same thing as a part of the automation. So it's just one activity, this content generation, and this activity can easily generate the content for us from any of these models. Yeah, so let's run it and see how it works. So we get the input prompt. Let me find the email and paste it here. So I'm not saying anything like generate response or anything, just the email and the subject. So it runs in the background and I should see a message box in a second. Yes. So here it is. So this is the email that I'm going to send. And just like before, you can see it has all this information as I expect. And I did not provide my email or the contact info, but the placeholder is there. But if you provide it, that information will be a part of your response. So yeah, so this is a very basic way of implementing AI within an automation flow. There's nothing difficult. It's a very easy step. Yeah, you just provide the input, you provide instruction, and then you generate the context. But so that's the topic for our video here. But there are much more advanced things that we could do with this same activity that comes with context grounding. Yeah, in this scenario, it was a simple email which we got, and we actually used it in the user input itself with a system instruction to generate some responses. But there can be scenarios where you have a lot of information and you don't really know which information to use. That is something that you need to have automated way of figuring out which information is more relevant and using that information within the solution. So that comes as a part of a different topic which can be connected to context grounding, and you can also consider this as a retrieval augmented generation or RAG. So in another follow-up video, I'll explain to you what RAG is and how you can implement these kind of RAG solutions within the UiPath process. So that's it for this video. I hope you got a basic understanding about how to use content generation within the activity, just like how you can use in the ChatGPT interface to introduce these capabilities to your automation. So thank you for listening. I'll see you in another video in a few days.